this time. All right, perfect. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining. My name is Nick Petulio with Colorado Nonprofit Association, and welcome to ReFUND Colorado. Before I first pass it off to Mariah, I'd like to mention a couple things. As you see, we are in meeting format. I see a bunch of you sharing your video, which is awesome. Feel free if you'd like, periodically, even if you don't want to keep the video on the whole time, we'd love to see you. You are initially muted. That's just for background purposes, so feel free to keep that muted, but if you want to come off mute, raise your hand, type into the chat. Mariah and myself will be keeping an eye on that chat, so any questions that you don't want to maybe come off of mute for, you just want to type it in, we'll go ahead and politely interrupt Jerry as best we can to relay those questions. Following this, there'll be an email that has the recording along with the slides as well, so and anything that we kind of go over today that we want to add resource-wise, we'll throw that in the email and follow up afterwards. So yeah, without further ado, I will first go ahead and pass it off to Mariah.
Thanks so much, Nick. Sorry, let me get situated here for a second. Thank you everyone for joining us today for the ReFUND Colorado informational and Q&A session. I'm Mariah Taylor. I'm the membership coordinator at Colorado Nonprofit Association, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. Joining me today is Rachel Childs. Both Rachel and I are kind of the ReFUND Colorado team leads this year and kind of working to get information out to eligible nonprofits of this opportunity. I'll hand it off to Rachel if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, and then we can hand it off to Jerry to get us started.
Wonderful. Welcome, everybody. There's still people coming in, so that's also really great to see. This is the second year in a row that the Donate to a Colorado Nonprofit Fund has been available to local nonprofits in the sector. I'm Rachel Childs. I am going to be the one to kind of be answering a lot of the emails that are coming in from you all. I'm the one that's kind of putting together the emails that we sent out. If you did receive it, that kind of let everybody know to come here today. Mariah and I are going to be hopefully in contact with you if you have more questions, helping you out with the website, and just kind of being there for you if you need anything. And we had the wonderful Jerry Rosel today to help us introduce it to you. So I will kick it off to her.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for joining us today. As you can see, my name is Jerry Rosel. I'm the Director of Membership Services here at the Colorado Nonprofit Association. My pronouns are she, her, hers. If you have any questions about the staff's use of pronouns, please feel free to email any one of us. We're always happy to explain our use of pronouns. And again, thank you so much for joining us. Let's just dive right in. So you can, I'm not a good slide reader, so you can read what's on the slide, and I tell stories as we go along. And please, again, do not hesitate to chat a question or feel free to interrupt me. Up until this last year, if you were a Colorado state income tax payer and you filed your state income tax and you got to the bottom and you got a refund, woohoo! You actually had an option up until January of 2020 to donate a portion or all of that refund to one of 18 nonprofits, or 20 nonprofits, forgive me. It was really hard to be one of those 20. You had to go before the state legislature. You had to do a pitch. The state legislature voted on you. Oh, you got on the list, which was awesome. Then you had to maintain a threshold of donations to stay on the list. If you didn't maintain, off you went. And there was another nonprofit just happy and ready to take your place. And it was really hard. And it became even more challenging for nonprofits, as you all know, when the 2017 federal tax laws changed, which possibly was reducing charitable contributions. The association stepped back, they looked at that and they were like, we can fix this. And so they came up with Donate to a Colorado Nonprofit. So the Colorado Nonprofit Association, and at the time working on this project was Rennie Fagan and Mark Turner, worked with legislators and government agencies to get a law passed that allows any Colorado nonprofit, Colorado 501c3 nonprofit who has been registered with the Secretary of State for 5 years or more to begin participating in a program that allows you to collect state income tax refunds. So you can see on the screen how it works. We had to get the law passed. We developed a public action campaign. We worked with the Secretary of State to determine a list, to get that list of eligible nonprofits. And of course, it's the Department of Revenue that collects tax funds, and then they are the ones that put the funds back out to nonprofits. The eligibility requirements, you have to be a 501c3. You have to be registered with the Secretary of State under the Colorado Charitable Solicitations Act. Now, it's super important to note a couple things here. First of all, you have to be registered with the Secretary of State Charitable Solicitations Act for at least 5 years. You may be registered as a business, so you're registered technically with the Secretary of State in 2 locations. You're registered as a business, and you have to be registered under the Colorado Charitable Solicitations Act for at least 5 years. And super important, you can see the asterisk there. Any late renewal of your registration with the Secretary of State can disqualify you. So if your report is due on August 1st, don't turn your report in on August 2nd. It can bump you off and make you ineligible. And if you are familiar with the Secretary of State report, you know you're just grabbing information from your 990 and plopping it into your Secretary of State report. All of that sounds good. I'm not seeing any questions, correct? No, we're good. Okay. So kind of an example of what the contribution schedule looks like. Those nonprofits that were allowed by law to be on the list, they're still there. You can see them. There they are. And then when you get to the bottom, there you go. You've got that number there, donate to a Colorado nonprofit fund. And then it says some interesting things there. Enter the 11-digit Secretary of State registration number for the registered charitable organization. Enter the name of the registered charitable organization. Huh? We'll talk about it. Important things for you to know. Taxpayers can only select one write-in option. So they can pick one from the top of the list, and they can write in one eligible nonprofit. They can dedicate it some or all of the refund, and it's an amount. It is not a percentage. It's an actual amount. So if I want $10 to go to the nonprofit of my choice, I put in $10. The Department of Revenue will send a lump sum check sometime after June 30th. It's important to remember, it's a check. We had some people last year who were looking for electronic fund deposits, and then they were like, why do I have this check? So that's why. And important for you to know, because taxpayer information is confidential, you will not receive a list of your donors. Now, at this point, you're like going, are you kidding? No. Here's why that's super important. When we did focus groups on the whole concept, do you like this? Do you like this? You wouldn't believe how many donors were like, I really love it because they don't know who I am. I can remain confidential. Because we all know that sometimes when we get the name of a potential donor, we hang on to that name and email like a dog with a bone. And sometimes donors just don't like that. So how are you going to know how to help your potential donors with, am I eligible? Well, you can go to the Secretary of State list and find there. You can also see your Secretary of State registration number. That's the number you're going to share with your donors. Why do you have to write a number? Well, guys, if everybody spelled correctly or got organizational names correct, it wouldn't be necessary. But is it Colorado Nonprofit Association or the Colorado Nonprofit Association? The Department of Revenue doesn't have staffing to look up and try to guess who the organization is you were trying to donate for. So they want that number. They work by that number. This is an example of what your check is going to look like. Just your basic old fancy schmancy, old fashioned check. So as I mentioned earlier, we did some focus groups. We did, I want to say two, maybe 3 focus groups. After a while, it all becomes confusing, but What's really fascinating is 61% of the total respondents were positive about donate after just reading a description. They haven't even heard from you yet. They thought it was a positive thing before they've even heard from the nonprofits they support and they like. Imagine how that might change when they hear from you, the people that they already think highly of. So there is a great possibility that you are going to change some minds. Is it going to be a huge possibility? I don't know. You might, but you might make a difference here. So when do people start paying their taxes? Well, there's a nice little graph there. I'm betting those people in April may not necessarily be getting a bigger refund, but I'm betting those people in February, March are like, I've got some furniture that needs to be purchased. Oh, I've got a nonprofit I need to donate to. So you can see how you might want to time your messages. I know later in our presentation, you're going to hear from Elizabeth, who has said that she has already started putting her message out so that people can start hearing it. It's a very crowded world when it comes to messages right now. And we're just getting bombarded with so much. So if you think one message is going to do the trick, I'm going to give you a suggestion and say, oh, you might want to try several times reminding folks, because folks get messages from all kinds of sources these days. You know, they're working and they got their earbuds in, or they've got if they're working from home, like so many of us, they've got that TV going. There's a lot of distractions. So you plan on messaging more than one time. We doing good on questions? Anything, you guys? Okay. Again, please feel free to interrupt. I tend to talk a little too quick sometimes, so just I'd say smack me one, but let's not. So 2020 returns, 456 or 6% of eligible organizations received donations. Now you're probably thinking, oh, that's not very good. Well, hey, it was the first year. You got to kind of think of this program like a car getting on the highway. We're only on the entrance ramp. We haven't gotten up to speed yet. You know, when you're getting on the highway, you're not doing 70 the minute you get on that entrance ramp. So it's going to take a while for Colorado taxpayers to get used to this option. And how are they going to get used to it? They're going to get used to it because you're going to keep reminding them. The donations totaled more than $80,000. $85 was the average donation per donor, $155 per organization. It's only going to get better. Older age groups are more predisposed to click on the ads that were placed in various social media formats. They were mostly women over 65 and 12% from the younger group. Interesting. Google ads, display ads, Facebook performed higher than industry average through mobile devices, the phone. Majority of nonprofits cut back promoting ReFUND because of COVID-19. And I mean, let's face it, we were all trying to get our legs underneath us when COVID hit. I mean, we were all sent home to work remotely, or a lot of us were, and we were like, ReFUND what? Many nonprofits who promoted it have not seen an ROI yet, but they're planning on trying again. Again, I want to remind you, your donors and supporters have to hear the message numerous times and through various outlets. The website, blah, 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 we have set up for both donors and nonprofits, refundwhatmatters.org. And this is what it looks like. This is where you go, ooh, ah. I'd unmute you to make y'all do that, but I don't have time in the script for that. So I can see I'm getting looks here from some of my coworkers too. So there are areas here that are both for the nonprofit. Look at that nice little resource library. Lots of information in there for you. And for donors and supporters. They can search for a nonprofit. They can search by location. They can search by nonprofit category. They can make the decision as to what's important to them. Do they want to search by location because they only want to give to a nonprofit in their area? Is there a certain type of service that's more important to them? Or is there an organization they just know the name and they want to make sure they're eligible? Your donors get to choose what's important to them, and that is super important. So you can see in the sample there, somebody selected Grand Junction. They're going to get a list. And if you look right here, it says showing 1 of 20 of 112. So there are a lot of options, and the donor can click on each name to see about that organization. They can copy that registration number, paste it into their tax form. And let's talk about that tax form for just a second. If you know a tax preparer in your community, you might want to have a little chat with them. You want to say to them, hey, if you have any people you're doing their taxes for and they get a refund, make sure you mention them that they have this option. The other thing you want to do is tell your donors if they use a professional tax preparer, if they want to donate money, go in with that registration number, go in with the name spelled correctly, and tell that tax preparer, because tax preparers, anytime from January 30th to April 15th, are literally processing people like this. They're not going to want to take the time to look up a number or look up the correct spelling of a name. You need to get your donors with that thought in mind. I need to tell this to my tax preparer. I need to tell this to my tax preparer. I hope all of that makes sense to y'all. Rachel, are we good?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing coming in the chat. I mean, if you have any questions before Jerry's even finished, please let us know. That means you're given the good information.
Okay, I just saw your eyes. I saw your eyebrows go up, and I was like, "Ooh, question."
I see some eyes. I see some people writing things down. I see a lot of concentrated faces right now.
Okay, I can only see a couple faces, so I'm in a different spot here. So there you can see another example of what these look like when you do a search. Now let's talk about that resource library I mentioned just a minute ago. Look at there, look which we have already done for you. Sample promo flyers, newsletter content, social media posts, emails, sample media releases. We're trying to make this as easy as possible because there's a good chance not all of you organizations are sitting around with a full-on marketing department who can come up with these programs. We've done the work for you, and it is a uniform look. So how can you make this, how these tools work for you? You can kind of see how some organizations have used it with that bracket. That bracket is like the look. Kind of see how they've done that. And look, you can insert your logo and registration number there. Put that on your printed materials. Put it in your email signatures. Put it in your social media. You can put it, we had organizations that took out ads in their local newspapers. There were some communities last year in smaller communities with smaller airports. They took out an ad in their airport, put their organization's logos and registration numbers. There you go. Here's some more contact information. There's the web.
Oh, I was going to say, we do have a couple kind of clarifying questions.
Yes, ma'am.
So we've got one from Marissa. So just confirming, what is the amount of organizations people can put in? So they're just clarifying that you can select one from the list and write one in, or is it just one?
You can select one of the listed and you can write one in. Actually, you can select, let me back that up. I'm incorrect. You can select all 18 of the listed and write one in. You can only do one write-in. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Thank you. And let's hope that we have taxpayers out there that have those big enough refunds, they can do that for us.
Let's hope. And another one is for all the eligible nonprofits show up in the search and they don't have to populate it. Just clarifying that how the search function works for the eligible nonprofits.
Correct, that's correct. So if an organization, if an individual selects type, let's say they like animals. They want to give to an animal organization. They pick up that, and that's all they pick. Any organization related to animals will appear. If they say Colorado Springs and animals, it will narrow down to animal organizations in Colorado Springs. If they just pick Colorado Springs, anything in Colorado Springs will populate. Does that help?
Rachel, sorry about that. Jerry, we did have another question come through.
Sure.
I'm just going to read it. If we were supposed to get a check in 2020, when would that have come? And would it have come with a letter or just a check from the Department of Revenue?
Okay.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say our experience with our check was just the check and the screenshot that you saw earlier. Jerry, I don't know if you have a little bit more information about that time frame.
So the Department of Revenue, no, they tell us most checks were issued after June 30th, but before September 1st. If you did not get a check, please, there is a contact that we can get to. The experience I had from more than one organization that received a check, got the check, deposited the check, and then people were calling and saying they didn't get their money, even though they had donors who they knew donated. And when I went back and I said, this is what the check looks like, can you go talk to accounting? And both of the organizations had received the checks, they just didn't know why, and they deposited the cash. So.
Thank you.
And just a little highlight on your donors and you not knowing who your donors are. Here's a question you are going to get from your donors. They are going to ask you, can I write off my charitable contribution? Yes, they may. Do they have to have a receipt from you to do so? Can you issue them a receipt if you do not know they donated? Well, here's what we have been suggesting. If one of your supporters or donors does decide to select you, they should print out that page with your registration number and name and send you a copy, scan an email, mail, just so they can show that information to you. You can make that decision at that time. As you know, issuing a receipt, get that sent out. And yes, your tax payers, your donors and supporters can write off that donation. So just so you know, that there's a great way to get around, do I know who the donors are? If it's important for your donors to know, to let you know, that is an option available to them. Some donors simply don't want to be known. They like to remain anonymous. So I'm sorry, I should have mentioned that sooner. So you can, yes, ma'am.
Oh, no, I was going to say, all of this has been in terms of questions. Would you be able to maybe go back to the slide really quickly about the eligibility requirements and maybe go over those? Again, we're getting a couple of questions about exactly what people need to provide and how the list is kind of generated based on the criteria that we mentioned earlier. So I think that might be helpful.
Okay, so only organizations with a 501c3 are eligible. As you all know, in the nonprofit world, there's 26 subsectors. So there's 501c5, 501c14. There's lots of 501cs. Only 501c3 organizations are eligible to have their donors and supporters select them. That's the very first thing. The next thing, as a nonprofit that solicits donations in the state of Colorado, you should be registered in two distinct places. First of all, you should be registered with the Colorado Secretary of State as a business or corporation. The second place you should be listed is the Colorado Charitable Solicitations. When you solicit funds in Colorado, or any state for that matter, you are required by law to register with the Secretary of State. And you have to do that and fill out a report every year. You have a due date for that report. You want that report to be filled out and turned in on time so that you are in good standing as of September 1 of each year. The Secretary of State, they can take you off the list even if you're a day late. Mariah and I can share a story. This year, there were, Mariah, do you remember how many nonprofits there were? Several hundred, weren't there?
Yeah, it was a couple hundred.
They were literally 3 days late or a week late, but they turned in their report, but they had technically been suspended from the program. And we had to do a lot of work to get the Secretary of State in that department to go, okay, yeah, you're right, it was only a week. They're not going to keep doing that. They're going to say it has to be on time. So that's why we're constantly reminding you, don't be late turning in your report. We don't want you kicked off, because if you're kicked off, it starts your 5 years all over again. Using the website. Are you guys okay if I hop on the website real quick? Is that okay? So we can practice. Rachel, Mariah, is that okay?
Yeah, I think that would be great.
Okay, give me just a second. I'm gonna stop sharing for a second. I know you're all looking at each other, just bear with me. Okay, so here's what the screen looks like in real time, everybody. So I am going to search for a category. You can see it is pre-populated. These are based on the NTEE codes that I'm sure you're all familiar with. So let me just let's pick something different. Let's pick youth development. You can see right off the bat, there's 1,149 organizations that fall under youth development. And I'm going to hit search. And there we go. Look, the Centaurus band boosters are there. Go band. As a former tuba player, I appreciate that. This is what it looks like when I click on the list. People can just copy and then paste. So that's how that search would look. If I want to search near, I'm going to say Centennial. That's where I currently reside, and search. There's 17 in Centennial. Now I'm going to get really fussy. I'm going to say Littleton. And I am going to say Human Services and search. There's 18 organizations that match my requirements as a donor. And I think this should probably help you all understand how that works now. I'll also, while I'm here, and guys, I know I'm going off script here, so don't get mad at me. You can't. I want to show you a little bit about the resource library that I showed you about. Again, a reminder, be a 501c3. Here's your nice how-to guide. Nice little PDF. Tells you everything you need to know. There's that. Here's your FAQ. There you go. More for you. There's a campaign, there's a promo video. Yay, promo videos. Tools to promote your cause. Tells you even how to use it and a suggested calendar. Do all of you find this helpful, having seen this website live? Are there any other questions I can answer about using the website either as a donor or as a nonprofit? Are there any questions I can answer for that? We good?
We did get a question about providing social media posts again this year. We will be updating based on, since it was just last year, kind of tweaking with a little more of the dates and times that are a little more relevant. But they are still recommended that you use them, or again, if you've got your own plan, go ahead, I would say, and kind of use your own messaging. We do have definitely suggested messages, suggested ways to talk to people, but also the beauty of this is that you all know your donors best and who you're interacting with best. So these are suggestions, but we're doing our best to update with better kind of timetables.
Are there any other questions I can answer about using the website, how that's done? Okay. I'm going to go back to the slides now, if that's okay. Hang on a second. I'm just having my mouse and I are having a fight, and my mouse is winning.
It looks like Lisa, the tools are in the resource library. Just asking where the tools are. So when you do go to the website, it'll be up in the main search. It'll be above the search engine and highlighted in a box that says resource library on it.
Okay, just to make sure y'all can see that the refund slide right now, right?
Yes, that is.
Okay, thanks so much. So there's some, again, the website, refundwhatmatters.org. That's also a website you can share with your potential donors. You can email info when you have a question, and the Department of Revenue Taxpayer Helpline is also available to you. So I've done my part. I'm going to toss back to Rachel. Rachel, you can take it from here. And again, everybody, thank you so much for your time today. It's really been an honor to share this program with you. And remember, we're only on the entrance ramp. We're almost to the full highway. It's going to take a couple years. If any of you do Colorado Gives Day, you remember those first couple years, you know, it was a little slow. And now look at us. What did we do last year? A record-breaking $50 million. So we're going to be there soon too.
Thank you so much, Jerry. You have been such an asset in getting this off the ground and helping people. Nick did put in the chat, if there are any questions that maybe we didn't get to with Jerry, you're more than welcome to ask them in this next segment we have coming up. Or Nick, Mariah, and I will be looking through and finding the best way to answer those questions for you. Our second part today, we're so excited to have, which we couldn't have last year, which are organizations that have actually done efforts for refund and received funds from people's tax returns, which is incredible to see. And we're so incredibly lucky to have them up top. So first we have Elizabeth Barber, and I will let you introduce yourself and say a little bit about what you did last year, if you'd like.
Yeah, thank you, Rachel. Hi to everyone out there. A special hello to my fellow Weld County counterparts, Rand and Colleen. So great to see you guys on here today. Jerry, when you first started presenting, it totally took me back to a year and a half ago, sitting downtown in Greeley at the rec center when you and Rennie came up and you had a room full of us nonprofit people and you were trying to sell us all on this idea. And we're like, well, I think it sounds good, but you know, trying to get our heads around it. And I know Rand put that together for us. So it's just been great to see the growth of this, just even in the first year. So do you want me to go into more details now, Rachel, or will we circle back around?
We'll circle back. I'll let Mariah introduce our next panelist.
Okay.
Thanks so much. Also joining us today is Ken Quitagua. Ken, I hope I am pronouncing that name correctly. Feel free to come off mute and let me know if I'm mispronouncing your name. Ken is the founder and master falconer at HawkQuest. Also joining us from HawkQuest is Patty and Tina, who is joining us via video. Ken and Patty are joining via the phone. If Ken and Tina and Patty would like to also come off mute and introduce yourselves as well. I'll start with Ken. I see a Ken logged on. I know we had some challenges getting you logged on, so feel free to introduce yourself and then we'll hand it off to Tina. we may be having some technical challenges. So I know we had some challenges getting Ken logged on. Tina, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks, everyone. I apologize. I was hoping Ken and Patty were going to be able to use that call-in number, but hopefully they can hear us. And I would be more than happy to introduce them and myself. Ken is the executive director of HawkQuest, and he is also the founder and a master falconer. And Patty is the office manager for HawkQuest as well, and his wife. They are married, actually. So myself, I am a volunteer and a board member. I've been a volunteer for going on 20 years now with HawkQuest. So I have been done a lot of different things, from cleaning up the bird poop to becoming a board member and everything in between. So it's been such an honor and such a privilege to work with these amazing animals. They are all raptors, which is eagles, owls, falcons, hawks, and a real honor to work with Ken and Patty for so many years. They truly have become, more than just a nonprofit that I have volunteered for 20 years, but they are truly, we're very good friends. So I'm really sorry they aren't able to speak, but I'd be more than happy to speak on their behalf and answer any questions.
Thank you. Always fun with technical difficulties. But we hope potentially they might want to speak in the future, or maybe I wish text was also an option, but thank you so much. And with that, we would just like to know some of your first impressions about ReFUND, kind of what you used this last year in order to reach your donors and spread the word, and then kind of what was your impression of the program overall? If anybody wants to start with any of those pieces.
Sure. I'll go ahead and start, if that's okay, Elizabeth. Okay. I see your head nodding, so I'll go ahead and say yes. So first of all, I just want to thank Rennie as well. It was similar to Elizabeth, your experience. He came to Excel Energy. I do work for Excel Energy. And I was there at an event that Keeney Martin had put together, and was introduced to Rennie and heard all about the program, and this light bulb went off and said, wow, this could be something really great. I'm going to take this back to the board, which I did. The board at HawkQuest was very enthusiastic and excited about this, and we just jumped all over it. I mean, we were just so thrilled and so excited, and really looking forward to all of this. And we got volunteers to help us. Everyone was so willing to help. We have a graphic designer as a volunteer, so he provided us with some great graphics using your guys' templates, which was, by the way, the Resource Center is a great resource. So that resource library that Jerry showed, I would highly recommend you guys go in there and spend the time to look at it, because it really provided a lot of information and useful tools that we used throughout the campaign. Our first impression was like, wow, this could be huge. This could be really big. And we're going to spend the time, the resources, and we're going to really delve into this. And then COVID hit. So it was disappointing, I'm sure, as all of you know. We were still out there. We were still trying to get the word out as much as we could, even after that. But being the nonprofit that we are and the way we're set up, we do a lot of outreach. So we primarily are in front of people, whether that's at a school or an event. We are face to face with them. So unfortunately, all of our events just stopped in March. I mean, everything just stopped. So it was real unfortunate. But our first impressions of the program were, we love it. We're excited. Let's get on board. And we had a unanimous support for it from our board as well.
Thanks, Tina. And small world, we have some connections. I know Keeney really well from Excel too, so it's nice to see that full circle. I would echo what you said. Again, just thank you to Rennie and to Mark really for pushing that legislation forward. Clearly, that is something as smaller nonprofits we could not do. And as Jerry mentioned, if you were on the list before, still are lucky enough to reside on that list, like, there are so many hoops you have to jump through. You have to be able to maintain a certain dollar amount. So I think this really opened it up statewide for many of us to partake in this option, which was really exciting. And also, I definitely want to echo what Tina said. Please do not reinvent the wheel. Go and take the materials they've already created. They're perfect. You guys have done a really great job with that. To me, also, we wanted to be consistent, right? So if someone was going to print something in the Denver, so I'm up north in Greeley, obviously, the Greeley Dream Team, and I realized I didn't explain who we are. We're a nonprofit, obviously. We work with about 1,400 students. We mentor, empower, and engage them. We help them graduate from high school and go off to college. So they're from a diverse population, a lot of first-gen students, and come from, you know, a lower socioeconomic background. And so that's our audience of our, you know, our clients that we serve. But we knew we wanted to just take this, and so that if there was a marketing campaign that happened in Denver, or if they were to put something on the news, we were branded in the same way that everybody else was, right? Except it fit us personally. So I think that would be the biggest thing. We used all of our pieces, and I'm gonna, I think Nick said it was okay. I'm gonna just share my screen on one thing that we ended up using so far for this year. And I'm like, can I share?
And let me know if it doesn't work, Elizabeth.
Okay. I'm thinking it's not letting me. Oh, here it is. Okay. I'll just show you that on our screen there. The biggest thing that we have is you definitely want to put your registration number on everything that you do, because that's how people are going to find you. And absolutely, as Jerry showed us, it's super easy to look up. It kind of reminds me a little bit about how we do Colorado Gives Day, right? Similar to that. But if you start putting it on everything, it just helps you. That's how we branded it. We always did our logo. We always did the registration number, and then we changed our memes. This is just off a piece of social media that we already put out this week. This is just like an internal text document for us, so we know what we're going to say. But I think that just really helps to be consistent in that message. So anytime we put ReFUND out there, they saw that same logo with the registration number. And so I think that helps along the process as you're putting that in front of your donors. We were pretty excited right away. We weren't really sure what to expect, like I said, when we first heard that presentation, but we thought, we've got to try this, right? If there's other agencies out there that are able to secure large donations off this, then we should be able to work on that too. And I do agree with what Jerry says. It is like, that was the first year. We made just under $1,000, which I thought was like, okay. But now hearing her stats today, I'm feeling actually a little bit better about our $1,000. And so we know, obviously, there's definitely room to go up. We started out the year with, we did a couple different social media campaigns. We have Instagram and Facebook, and we just rotated days. So on one week, the post would go on Monday. The next week, we would do our post on Tuesday. And so we just tried to find different audiences as we went. We started that right off the bat in January with an informational campaign last year. I would suggest doing another informational campaign. We've already, if you read in that, we directed people back to our blog that gave them just a little write-up. Here's some more details. And again, we took that off the marketing materials. I think we used a lot of that one slide that Jerry showed with the instructions. This is where you're going to find it. So that, again, we were super consistent, and it was easy for folks to be able to connect those dots. We did the blog, we had a winter electronic newsletter that we put the information in. And then we did not end up putting it in any hard mailings, and part of that was just COVID. But we had the weekly push out. We still had our marketing campaigns happen like from mid-March to April, but our focus really, and would have been through the rest of March, was January, February, and March. We advertised a couple weeks into April, but we thought the same thing that Jerry said. Probably at that point, the folks that were begrudgingly doing their taxes were not getting refunds, right? So they weren't really that interested in providing something for someone else. But I think that went, really well. Like I said, we were surprised. We got our check on July 24th. We did a thank you post after that. I know of 2 people that had said to me in that process, hey, we gave you money through ReFUND. So once that check came, we wrote them a personal thank you. And then for the rest, we just did it in general posts to all of our donors and thanking everybody who participated in that. I'm mixed. Part of me, like Jerry says, I want to be that nonprofit who can have everybody's name and contact numbers, and so that I can get a nice thank you out to them. But I do understand the value of there's times where people just want to donate and they don't necessarily want to join a mailing list. They don't want to get their email box filled up. So we appreciate that too. But we've already started, like I said, this week. We'll continue to push stuff out, and we hope it just grows bigger, not unlike you said about Colorado Gifts Day.
That's awesome, Elizabeth, and thank you so much for sharing. It sounds like you guys did a lot and you had some really good information in there as well. I also wanted to put Tina back on the spot because you shared with me some efforts that you guys did last year as well, and I think that that would be really great to share if you would also like to chime in.
Sure. Let me go ahead and share my desktop as well. I would like to show you the postcard.
Let me allow that
Here.
for you, Tina. I'm not sure if I did give you rights to share anything. Let me try that real quick.
Okay.
You should be able to now.
Okay. And hopefully you guys can see that.
Yep.
Okay, so this was a postcard that we put together, and we used your template, and we have the logo up there, and then this is our logo, actually this HawkQuest with the bird, which was, our biggest challenge for this one was, how do we get this logo into that space? But we have a very creative person on our volunteer team, and he is a graphic designer, so we used the space right here to put in the number. So we thought, that's going to be the critical thing that we really need to get out there to the potential donors. And we use this space here to actually have our registration number up front and larger. So we went through many iterations and drafts of this. We have some great photographers, volunteers at HawkQuest as well. So all the birds that you see here are actually birds that HawkQuest takes care of. And I apologize, I also did not really kind of share what HawkQuest is. They are obviously a nonprofit. They do environmental education. They go out primarily to schools and teach the students about these birds and the importance of protecting them and protecting the environment that they live in. And again, we also do a lot of fundraiser events, large events for various locations and organizations and corporations. And that's where we really kind of raise our funds. We have merchandise that we sell, and we take donations, and we have opportunities for people to take pictures with the birds. Our eagle picture is always very popular, and it's just a great way to raise funds for the birds because we have about 36 of them. And I'll tell you, they do eat a lot, and they do need to eat every day, and they need to eat a natural diet. So we are always looking for ways to find ways to donate or to raise funds for the care of the birds, and to just keep HawkQuest doing what it's doing, which is, its critical mission is to educate people about this. These birds are important to our environment. So this was one of the cards. So we had a front side of the card, which was this piece right here, and then we had a back side of the card, which was this piece right here. We actually, I'll stop sharing and get back on here. So we actually did hand out, we printed a number of these, just knowing that, we were going to hand them out to everybody at every event, every lecture, every booth we did. And our biggest, one of our biggest booths and fundraisers just so happened to be in January. So it was a great opportunity for us to, it's an Indian market, and it was a great opportunity for us to hand out just every single person that we saw. We spoke about it. And one thing I really want to mention, I know this was something that Mariah had asked, is how was it received? I know me personally, I worked that show, it's a long weekend show, from 8 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock at night. And I can honestly say that everybody I talked to about this were so receptive. I mean, the general public were just so willing to help. They were all, I would say, nobody knew about the program, obviously, because it's a new program. But they were also very excited that Colorado was going to do this. That there was an option for them to actually donate part of their tax refund to a nonprofit that they truly felt, they wanted to support. So that was really good to hear. I mean, we didn't have anybody saying, oh no, like I need to use it to, paint my house or something like that. I mean, everybody was just so very willing to say, this is a great thing that Colorado is doing. So kudos to everybody who worked on just setting up this entire campaign. In addition to that, very similar to Elizabeth, we also have a volunteer who works at Excel as well, who is a social media person. So she kind of went, full blown and set up a whole schedule for social media. We have another volunteer who takes care of our Facebook page. So we've definitely utilized all the social tools, Facebook and Instagram. We have a website. We put all the information out there. We would regularly update it. We had a schedule that was put together by this particular volunteer where we again went to your resource library and grabbed those messages, which were great because it's hard to come up with messages like every other day to post something unique out there. Luckily, we have some really great visuals and great photographers at HawkQuest, so we posted those bird videos or bird pictures as well. And we just have fun with it. I mean, it was a lot of fun. We got all the volunteers engaged and they were excited to help. And we were really pleased to see that as well. And, you know, we put them in our newsletters. We put them in our membership newsletter. The one thing that we didn't have that Elizabeth talked to was that mailing list. As mentioned before, you know, we pretty much do a lot of outreach. And so we don't ever collect that type of information. So for this upcoming campaign, I'd really like to pick your brains at the campaign to find out any help you can give us to, you know, how do we get a mailing list? Because I think we're losing a huge audience there and potential donor if we did have a mailing list. And right now we don't have that. But yeah, so I just wanted to share, you know, what we did as well. You know, our fundraiser total wasn't a lot. I mean, obviously we all know COVID impacted it, but we are, you know, ready to do this again. We're excited. We want to pick it up, and we did really ramp up in February and March, and especially April. And thank you for providing all that information in your resource library as to really when do Colorado taxpayers start filing their taxes, which I learned a lot about that, I have to say. So that was really great information to have. So we spent a lot of time up front, not too much, and then really hit it hard in April. And it was just about like every other day, there was a Facebook post or an Instagram post, and just a lot of reminders out there and a lot of cards handed out. So thank you for giving me a little extra time there. I'll stop now. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt you, Rachel. I just wanted to hand it back to Jerry real quick. I know she had something she wanted to share. Jerry?
Thanks so much, Mariah. A good question came in, is are we referring to the EIN number? And bless Marissa's heart, she said, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, no, this question has come up before. The EIN is a federal number. We want you to use your state registration number. So I want to clarify if you were confused. If you put in your if you start passing out your EIN number, it's going to be a challenge. So remember your state registration number, which you can get from the Secretary of State's website or the refundwhatmatters.org website. It is on there as well. Also, I wanted to comment on something that Tina said. Tina said, you know, it was the first year, and I totally forgot to tell you a very important thing. You ready? Colorado is the only state that has the program this in depth. We're it. We're number one. You always wanted to be number one. This is your opportunity. We're number one. Other states have the program similar to our 18, 20 organizations, but no state has the in-depth program that Colorado does. If you are on this phone call and you're a member of the association and you ever wonder, why am I a member? This is why you're a member. Your dues allow the staff of the association to do this type of policy work. This is the work of a policy team that got this passed. So if you're ever scratching your head and wondering, why am I a member now? Just remember, this is why you're a member. So I just had to get that pitch in and clarify the difference between EIN and state registration number. Thank you for letting me have another minute, Mariah.
Of course. Thanks so much, Jerry. I think that was very helpful. And I just want to say thank you again to Elizabeth and Tina for sharing, you know, some sample pieces or pieces that you kind of used as outreach last year, and for sharing all that information. I think that was really great. I think now we'd like to open it up. If anyone has any questions specifically for HawkQuest or Greeley Dream Team, feel free to ask away. You can chat in your questions or feel free to just come off mute and you can ask that way as well.
So it looks like we have a question from Michelle. Michelle is asking, if your organization is listed on the site, does that mean your organization is current and eligible? Michelle, yeah. Can you tell I like this program?
And Jerry, to speak to the other side of that too, if it's not located, is there another place to look into it? Or if it's just not on there, if you're not registered, does that just mean that you haven't met that criteria yet?
Yes, it means that you have yet to meet the criteria. If you believe that to be an error, please email that info@refundwhatmatters.org. We will double check with the state and verify that. And if indeed you should belong on that list, we will get you on that list. More questions?
You can type them in too. Oh, sorry, go ahead. Perfect.
Hi, Colleen.
Hi, so we are a new organization. We filed 990s for 2019, but we received our 501c3 in 2020. So my question, I think, is it our filing of 990 and been a part of Charitable Act, or is it the combination of both 501c3 acquisition plus all that? I'm trying to figure out what year we'd qualify.
It's your registration with the Secretary of State's charitable solicitation. So as long as you registered for charitable solicitations the same time you did everything else, you're in good. You just got to wait your 5 years. And just so you know, the 5 years, you guys, that was something the state legislature put in as a caution. They didn't want any fly-by-nights coming in and taking advantage of the residents of Colorado who are paying state taxes. That was their thing that was like, oh, hey, we need to make sure that nobody's taken advantage of. One of the most interesting questions that came in from the legislature, I love telling the story. Sorry, I'm going to take another second, Mariah and Rachel, they're going to smack me in a minute. When they were putting this out and testifying and as to why this was a good thing, a question from the state legislature later was this: can I send a check in with my tax form to the nonprofit? Wait a minute, you want to mail a check to the Department of Revenue to give to the nonprofit? No, you can just mail that check right to the nonprofit. They're happy to take your money that way too. That option hasn't gone away. I love telling that story. I just find it so funny. I can see you laughing at me, Elizabeth.
I have a quick question. I guess I'll start for either Kate or either Elizabeth or Tina. Feel free to, because of all of the unforeseen circumstances, I guess with the added stress of COVID, I guess, how did that help impact, or what did that do to, I guess, your original plans that we had for that roadmap and the resource library? Like, I guess, how did that impact you, or how did you manage to navigate that?
Okay, I'll start. Honestly, I think last year was less impactful for us than it will be this year. Like I said, we had already started, we'd done a big push in January and February, and halfway into March, we already had it. We kept up our social media like we would have, but I think at that point, it was almost to the finish line, right, of people turning in their taxes last year when the pandemic started. So if you might have seen the example that I used that we posted this week, we know 2020 was a hard year, if this is an option for you type thing. I think this year has the potential possibly of being harder, just with everything that happened with our economy in 2020. So we'll see. I'm not sure. We're going to still do everything that we did. And hopefully we will grow it. But if we have a blip year and then don't grow again until, 2022, I wouldn't be surprised, I guess.
And I'll just go ahead and add to that. For HawkQuest, we did have our schedule. We had our plan, our communications plan, our social plan, to run all the way through the tax season. For us, pretty much all of our events stopped quickly about mid-March. So we all decided at that point, let's just keep it going. We're not going to stop. We're not going to stop anything that we had on that plan. We went through, we finished doing what we could, which was a lot of the social and the website stuff. Of course, our events that had stopped, we couldn't hand out those cards any longer. which was for us, for us, that's huge because there's where the bulk of our audience is in person. But we went forward with our social and website plans. And, in this year, I think we're very optimistic. And I think like any nonprofit, you're always optimistic. We're very hopeful that and excited to start for this tax season. But I would echo what Elizabeth said too. I think it's, when COVID first hit, I think a lot of people were in shock, didn't know what was going to happen. We've now almost been unbelievably a year with this now, which is pretty frightening. But we're still going to move forward with it for the 2020 tax refund donation. So yeah, I think that's a realistic outview or outcome. And I just have a question too, I guess, for Jerry or whomever in the program. Do you have any goals set? I mean, do you have a roadmap for this program that was changed or modified because of the pandemic?
I can speak to Mariah. Do you want to speak on it too? It definitely is a great question because ReFUND kind of sits in an interesting space of not really being tied to anything because we have the Department of Revenue taking over parts. We have setups from other parts. So as a program, Mariah and I really decided we don't have set number goals. We don't have set money goals because people are struggling. And we understand that this is a choice that people can make and an option that people can have, but it's not something that many people might take advantage of because of what they feel is for their personal needs or just not knowing the program very well. So we are putting a lot of, I guess, a lot of our efforts into letting the nonprofits know that this is a choice and an option and something that you are able to do. But we also understand that there are limitations and unforeseen circumstances. So we are doing our best to provide the materials and the information so that you can reach who you know best, I think is kind of where we're coming from. Mariah, do you have any more that I have probably forgotten?
I think you hit the nail right on the head, Rachel. We just want to be, sensitive to what everyone's experiencing right now during these challenging times. And like Rachel said, it really is a choice for people to, to decide if they want to make their donation or not. So, we're just here to provide all the information and resources to all organizations that are eligible and, reach out to our contacts and we'll see how it goes and hopefully we can also get through this pandemic together as well, just as a side note.
Okay, thank you. I mean, that's, thank you for that. And just maybe one last follow-up question with that. Do you anticipate having any more like virtual kind of things like this? I know I remember last year seeing, writing in a magazine article and he was talking about it on a video, on your website. I know those things probably may or may not happen for this next campaign year. Just wondering if you were thinking of maybe doing anything more in a virtual world as far as, helping out the nonprofits to get the word out there. News organizations.
Great question. And thanks so much for asking, Tina. We are planning on hosting a few more informational sessions virtually because of COVID. And this session is actually being recorded as well. So you all will get this information after today's session.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, and in terms of press and things, we're doing our best to kind of send things out to traditional media. And we also have that as an option in our resource library in case you do have connections with your local news agencies or newspapers. I know that there's a story about that Rennie did relay that I believe it's Durango is on New Mexico's television. So in some places the access is a little bit different. So they did reach out to trusted people in their community to talk about ReFUND on a Colorado access site, which is interesting. But we are doing our best to kind of get the word out there in that sense and reaching out to contacts that we have internally to to help spread that message on digitally on their site. But we would love to have some more informational sessions as well with people like yourself and Elizabeth and everyone who's shown up. So we also have a mailing list. So if you truly want to be on that mailing list, you can reach out to us on the website and we can get you on there for future correspondence.
So I have a quick question for Elizabeth, and I don't know if it's an inappropriate question, but it's something that has been like stirring in my mind this whole time as an organization that's always looking for new revenue to bring in. But with Colorado ReFUND, it sounds like you guys, your campaign was well organized. You used all the tools. I don't know like what your donor base looks like, but what did you receive from this? What dollar amount? I almost feel like I'm asking somebody their salary by asking this, but it's helping me to understand a little bit more like kind of return on investment, the amount of time we want to spend on that campaign versus what came in.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good question. We made just under $1,000. And so I think that stat sheet, you are going to send those slides out too, right? I love that page, Jerry, that you said that only 456 of the eligible organizations, so only 6% actually received something last year. So there was 7,755 and a total raised was only 80,813. That's when I was like scribbling my notes really fast as you were sharing that slide, because I think like, oh, okay, that's good for us to know. We honestly had no idea what to expect. And I think in a typical year, Mariah, Rachel, or Jerry, correct me if I'm wrong, but checks would normally come out May, June, right? No, not even
No,
then.
and that's because people file extensions on their taxes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
and that's really important to add. If somebody files an extension and it's the date after the check has been issued, that money is going to come in the next year's check. So just there's a little asterisk there for you.
maybe we're all going to get these ginormous checks this year we weren't anticipating. So yeah, I mean, I think we'll look at trying to still set a goal for us to raise a certain percentage above. I would say when Rachel, you guys were talking about that you understand it's folks' choice. Don't give up on the campaign though. Like keep pushing it out there. I think it's so important. And as we all know, it is definitely going to be a harder year, maybe even a harder couple of years. But I think we still got to keep waving that flag as we move forward, and then eventually it'll come back around on for us.
I have a question. Mike Lau here with the Rocky Mountain Honor Flight. Jerry.
Yes, sir.
If we show up on this list, and we do, because I printed this yesterday, does that mean we've registered both with the Colorado Secretary of State and registered for Colorado Charitable Solicitation for this year?
Yeah, you're not going to be registered with one and not the other. Just make sure you stay on top of your paperwork, Colonel. Because
I have this document I printed out also from the Secretary of State's office. It says we're good to go, current through what expires on August 15th, 2021.
So you know what that means, Colonel? Don't be turning in your annual report on August 16th.
Right.
Stay on top of getting that report in on time. I can't begin to, I know it sounds silly, guys, because the state's always been like, you're a day late. Now it's important. That's one of the reasons why the state likes this program, quite honestly, is because they realize they're not going to have to chase down annual reports anymore.
I'll call the treasurer right after this session. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Just to add in on HawkQuest response for what goals we set. We knew it was the first year. And so our goal was really what we put into it. And that became, because we're a volunteer organization, it was basically the cost of the cards, which was pretty minimal. I don't have the exact total in front of me. I know Kim and Patty have that, but I do believe it was less than 1,000 that we actually raised. The cost of the cards was roughly around 300. So that was our kind of our first year goal, was let's just see if we can just even recover the cost that we're going to spend on this. And then after that, we had some much more ambitious goals for for the following, the next year, the following year, the following year. But with this pandemic, we are going to probably revisit that and set some possibly more realistic goals.
I do have a friend who runs a nonprofit up here, and we were talking a little bit about this, and she's like, well, we got $100 and that was what I donated off of my income tax, right? So, it definitely runs the gamut of what agencies are going to get. But I just feel like there's so much potential for the program to grow and just be another nice option out there. I think in today's society, especially with the multi-generations, we just need to have a variety of options for our donors to be able to give to us in whatever platform works best for them. So I'm just excited that it's another option on the table for someone to tap into if that's their best fit.
And one thing I'll add to that is, I know for us at HawkQuest, because I do work for Excel Energy, and we have another volunteer who works for Excel Energy. If you work for a company that is matching donations, matching gifts, involved in this, we're very fortunate to have Keeney Martin, who is very well known in the nonprofit world. So, if you start talking to those organizations, that's what I did. And I didn't know anybody in our nonprofit organization at Excel. I made it basically my goal as a volunteer to find out who they were, to get to know them, to introduce them to HawkQuest. And, we have done so much with them, and they have been a real advocate, huge advocate. Keeney Martin has been a huge advocate, and Liz Gardner as well. But I would say, for all of those out there working for a corporation, look into it. I mean, it really does help.
And seeing in the chat, Colleen, thank you again for your question. That says that you're wondering if community foundations can help get the word out about the option to their marketing materials. Absolutely. If you have a strong connection with a foundation and feel that they can have it on their website or in their newsletter or something, if you want to work something out with them, you're more than welcome to use our materials or yours. Mariah, I don't know if you want to speak to that in terms of your connections with some of the partners.
Yeah, great question. And thanks so much for bringing that up.
Jerry, what?
Randy, do you want to, you're with a
Yeah.
lovely community foundation. Would you like to respond to that? Sorry, Mariah, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I'm like, hey, we got somebody.
Our marketing guy's on here too, but yeah, we helped last year. We worked with Colorado Nonprofit Association to get the word out to our nonprofits in our area. And as I recall, it was a really snowy, yucky kind of day, and you guys came up and presented anyway. And we had a great turnout. I don't know, we had Elizabeth, maybe 50 or so nonprofits that attended. Yeah. So it was very successful. So we got the word out to some degree the first year. And Tim, I guess you might want to speak to what we have planned for this year.
Well, we also covered it at our community classes as well, and talked about it there too. Yeah, for this year, we're still looking into what those community classes will look like possibly, but I would love to help get the word out to nonprofits in the area.
Something else that just kind of occurred to me, of course, seeing Tim, I also sit on a committee for him for our Weld Gives collaborative. So for Colorado Gives Day in our community, we have a collaborative. So I'm guessing there might be some of you around the state that are in a local collaborative within your community or your county. It's easy to tack that on after Colorado Gives Day, right? You've already got a group of people, you've already got the mechanism set up to be able to push out some of those marketing efforts. So think about that as another option too, and most of that's free. Tim,
and I remember, yeah,
my list for our next meeting.
Yeah, I was going to say we presented on it. You presented on it last year at our Colorado Gives Day meeting at one of the meetings. I think that was super helpful. So we could do that again this year.
Jerry, let me just say thank you. It's a great program. And as has been said, it's got tremendous potential. And to be the only state that's doing this is quite a feather in your cap for all the work you guys have done, and Mark and Rennie and the
Mark and
group.
Rennie.
But thank you on behalf of all of us, thank you for your work.
I will pass that on to Mark and Rennie, and I will tell you, those two work so incredibly hard for Colorado's nonprofits. And this is the result of those hard work. So I will make sure that they hear that message. Thank you so much for that.
And I'll just echo that too. I'm sure Rennie's so tired of my emails and my phone calls, and Nick, you too. And you were so responsive. I mean, you know, considering your positions, you always email me right away or call me back. And I just thank you both very much.
Any other questions at all? Rachel or Mariah, up to you. We can wrap it up now. If you want me to say some final words after you all, it's up to you. Totally up to you.
Yeah, I guess. Oh, go ahead, Rachel.
I was just gonna say, we have about 10 more minutes. So yeah, if you have any questions or other comments, or want to just come off and give opinions as well as about ReFUND, you're more than welcome to. We can, I will leave some of the contact info in the chat as well. I know Nick will be following up with everybody with the recording and a little bit more. So yeah, unless anybody else has any questions, I am so grateful for everybody that showed up today and participated.
Yeah, since we're not seeing anything go through, I guess we'll just go ahead with the closeout. You know, I know everyone's pretty busy, so we'll let you get on with the rest of your day. I just want to say thank you again for everyone who attended today and taking the time to learn a little bit more about ReFUND. Everyone asked such great questions, and it really helped contribute to today's session. I also want to say thank you to Jerry for all the great information about ReFUND Colorado, and to Elizabeth and Tina for joining us today and providing a bit more insight about your experiences last year. I think it was very helpful, and we're so thankful to have had you on today. Last but not least, I also want to say thank you again to everyone who attended today's Zoom meeting. We're so glad you're able to join us, and I know we may not have been able to get through everyone's questions, especially during the PowerPoint, but again, please know that we will be scheduling some more informational sessions that can be found on our website under the upcoming trainings page. And the presentation, again, will be emailed out to you, so you'll have that information. Thanks once again for everyone who attended today. This was so great, and I hope you all have a safe and healthy rest of your day.
Thanks.